nearly lost his life after slipping into a glacial river, with wild beasts lurking everywhere, forced to survive in -10 degrees Celsius temperatures and go without food for 7 days. That's what Ed Stafford endured while surviving in Changbai Mountain. This time, Ed has traveled to China for a survival challenge. The challenging location is Changbai Mountain in Jilin, where temperatures drop to -30 degrees Celsius. All animals here are protected, and hunting is completely banned. What can bald Ed eat in this harsh environment? After saying goodbye to the staff, he began this challenge. Changbai Mountain is covered in snow all year round. The daytime temperature is -10 degrees Celsius, while at night, it gets even colder, dropping to as low as -40 degrees Celsius. It looks like Ed's ordeal is just beginning. A snowstorm is starting to form around him. Not wanting to be buried by the heavy snow, he quickly searches for a suitable camping spot. The snow is about 60 centimeters deep, making every step he takes extremely difficult. If Ed doesn't find a safe spot before nightfall, he risks encountering a mountain tiger. This northeastern tiger was spotted last month and is known to live nearby. After walking for a while, the snowstorm intensified. To keep his body warm, Ed came up with a clever plan. He decided to dig a snow cave for the night. The idea was to pile up a large mound of snow, then dig a hole inside and crawl in. He started digging into the snow beneath his feet. Exhausted, he switched to rolling the snow to make it easier. After an hour of hard work, his creation was finally complete. To let the snow naturally harden into ice, Ed took the opportunity to search for materials to make snowshoes. These Y-shaped branches seemed perfect. He climbed a tree and used his weight to snap them off. As for the bindings, he decided to use nearby vines as a substitute. One advantage of this place is that he won't have to worry about a water shortage. This natural snow water is easy to drink, no different from mineral water. Heading back to the spot from earlier, now he just needs to dig a hole and crawl into the snow cave. He crawled inside to test it out and found it quite spacious, but still very cold. He decided to lay some branches on the ground for insulation. Then, he started crafting a pair of sandals from the branches. He put them on to test, and the results were quite good. He was so delighted that he couldn't stop laughing. As night approached, fearing suffocation while sleeping, he used some branches to make a hole in the roof for ventilation. He placed his backpack in front of the entrance as a barrier and ended his first day on the island. After sleeping until 8:30 a.m. the next morning, he knew that staying on the mountain peak would eventually lead to starvation. He decided to move toward the foot of the mountain. Putting on the sandals he had crafted the day before, he set off on his journey. After walking for a long time without finding any signs of protein, he finally heard something. Looking down at the ground, he spotted a fallen pine cone. Using his teeth to crack it open, Ed ended up crushing it. The seeds inside were rich in fat and protein. But that wasn't enough for this harsh survival journey. Before moving on, he gathered as many pine cones as possible, just in case he couldn't find another food source. Feeling thirsty after eating so many pine nuts, Ed found a small stream and immediately bent down to drink, quenching his thirst. If hunting is prohibited here, the only option left is fishing. So, Ed decided to follow the stream downstream. Once he found a larger river, food would no longer be a problem. After an hour of walking, he discovered the first living creature. He could only stand there helplessly, as hunting any animals was strictly prohibited in this place. He just wanted to quickly leave this heartbreaking place. As night fell, finding a place to stay became a big problem. Just in time, the drooping branches beside him turned out to be the perfect spot for a campsite. He simply shook off the snow clinging to them, then gathered 10 fir branches and leaves to set up a roof. Using the wood he found, he laid them across the snow on both sides, creating a comfortable single bed. After struggling through the night, he packed up his belongings the next morning, constantly coming up with new ideas. Today's mission was to find a long-term shelter and a suitable spot for fishing. After walking 2 kilometers, he reached a frozen river. Taking a risk, he decided to cross it quickly to find a suitable shelter. After walking a short distance, the surface suddenly collapsed in one spot. Luckily, it was just the edge, so he was unharmed. Fortunately, he managed to cross safely. Next, Ed just needs to find a spot where he can both set up camp and fish. Here it is, a river. Based on his many years of survival experience, Ed determines that there must be fish here. The surrounding area is spacious, making it a perfect spot for long-term shelter. But the sun is setting, and the most urgent task now is to start a fire. Using all his strength, Ed gathered dry branches, stacked them neatly, and crafted a simple fire-starting tool. He frantically rubbed the stick, and soon, sparks appeared. Carefully, he moved the embers to the pile of straw he had prepared, but the straw was damp, and no flames appeared. But for Ed, this was just a normal challenge. He frantically rubbed the stick once more, and a small flame quickly ignited. However, as night had already begun to fall, there was no time to build a proper bed. He had no choice but to lie down next to the fire and sleep. It was now the fourth day, and Ed's mission today was to find a way to get food. It seemed that the only edible option was the fish in the river. He discovered that the ice had started to melt. Tapping it lightly with a stick, he noticed a layer of air underneath. This was not good news. Even drinking water required extreme caution. Ed had to lie flat on the ice and sip carefully. Continuing his search for a good fishing spot, Ed suddenly discovered otter tracks. Following the trail, he eventually found the spot where the otters had been hunting. There were even leftover fish bones scattered around. As everyone knows, otters carry bacteria all over their bodies, and so does their food. However, these fish scraps couldn't be wasted. The only option was to take them back to camp and cook them before eating. Now that he had food, the next step was to build a long-term shelter. He planned to construct a hut with a slanted roof. 2 logs were used as supports, with a horizontal beam placed on top. He then stacked tree trunks and branches continuously from the back. Finally, he spread a thick layer of fir branches, completing the shelter. He immediately got to work. While collecting materials, Ed unexpectedly got lucky. He found a wild beehive on a dry tree. Without hesitation, he took some honey and put it in his mouth to replenish his energy. The shelter is almost complete. It just needs a bit more straw, and it's done. The shelter is almost complete. It just needs a bit more straw, and it's done. After a busy day, Ed begins preparing dinner. Using the pine cones he had collected earlier, he carefully picks out each seed and crushes them to prepare his meal for the night. 15 minutes later, Ed's homemade pine nut cakes are ready. Golden, crispy, and delicious, they provide plenty of energy and protein. After eating well and drinking enough, it's time to lie down and sleep. On the 5th day, the plan for today is fishing. Initially, he wanted to use tree bark as a fishing line, but it was still too brittle to be useful. Having no other choice, Ed resorted to his secret weapon. He took a bandage from his first aid kit and carefully pulled out the cotton fibers to make a fishing line. As for the hook, he simply used a safety pin as a substitute. The animals of Changbai Mountain seemed very friendly. As soon as they saw Ed approaching, they all ran out as if to greet him. After everything was ready, Ed approached the ice, using a fallen branch to sweep away the layer of snow. Next, he used the branch to carve a hole in the ice surface, preparing for fishing. Suddenly, the ice beneath his feet collapsed, causing him to fall into the freezing sub-zero water. Fortunately, he managed to climb back to shore. Thank God. Just escaping from death, he was now too cold to continue fishing and had to quickly return to the camp. Ed hurriedly took off his soaking wet clothes and placed them near the fire to dry. In no time, he had stripped off all his clothes. After changing into dry clothes, his body temperature gradually warmed up. This gloomy mood lasted until the evening, and he ended the 5th day feeling down, with no new progress made. It was now the 6th day. After a night of resetting his mindset, Ed felt rejuvenated and ready to take on new challenges. He eagerly went to the ice to check his fishing trap, but sadly, not a single fish had taken the bait. He reset the fishing trap and returned to camp, hoping for a miracle to happen tomorrow. Early on the morning of the 7th day, Ed nervously headed to the ice to check his fishing trap. It seemed like the fish, after watching him chew on pine nuts for 6 days, took pity on him and decided to send one of their own his way. Look at this. It's a beauty, an absolute beauty. Ed cheered with excitement. This was the first time he had ever caught a beautifully striped salmon. The best way to eat wild salmon is by steaming. But since he doesn't have a pot, Ed will steam it in his own way. He soaked some moss in water until it was wet, then layered it over the campfire. The fish was placed in the middle of the moss. This way, he could create a natural steamer. 15 minutes later, the special steamed salmon was ready. The meat had a light pink color and a tender texture. Eagerly, he took a bite of the fresh, delicious fish. Ed's life had finally settled into a routine. For this challenge, he didn't expect luxurious meals. He only hoped to live like a king in this wilderness. In the coming days, Ed only needed to go fishing to survive and overcome this challenge. This marten had become Ed's best friend, occasionally coming over to learn his top-tier fishing techniques. Until the 10th day, Ed dismantled his shelter and extinguished the burning campfire to prevent wildfires. After restoring the surroundings to their original state, he concluded his 10-day survival challenge in Chombai Mountain. Thank you all for watching. Goodbye.